Let's do this thing.
Let's do this thing. I think your little thingy's on. You can raise it.
Yeah, I got your thing.
Handheld. You can take it out if you wish.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, you're on. This is going to be right in our face for the camera, so maybe you do want to put it at a little bit of an angle. See your face when you talk.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Vincent Rossi. I am co-hosting with Dana. Today we have a really good topic. It's cannabis for grown-ups, pain relief, sleep, and more. I'm very excited to learn more about what Ali has to say. She will be introducing herself soon, but for now, we're going to bring up our education partners to introduce themselves so we can get started.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Athena Quinones. I am your local senior ambassador and business development director for Kisco Senior Living. If you're interested in viewing our beautiful communities, Byron Park and the Kensington, feel free to come see me after.
Vincent, do you want to?
Good morning. My name is Nancy Hairsine with LifeMark Securities. I'm a certified financial planner and investment advisor.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Osmondson. I'm the founder of Mount Diablo Village. A village is a grassroots movement, grassroots organization. We bring vitality and vibrancy back to seniors' lives. We have classes, yoga, exercise, outdoors, indoors, learning, whatever. Just come and join us. We believe that aging is better together.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Wiest. I am the Community Relations Director at Belmont Village, San Ramon. We are the brand new senior living community off Bollinger Canyon in San Ramon. We would love to have you in for a tour. I have a table in the back also.
Okay, and last but not least, my name is Vincent Rossi again. I work with Dana Wilson. We are both real estate agents, senior housing professionals. We're here to serve any of your needs. If you would like any resources with regards to downsizing, things like that. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, Vincent. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, just real quick before we get rocking and rolling here, let's everybody turn our phones off if we've forgotten to do so we don't hear your ringer dingers. And today's topic, as Vincent said, is cannabis for grown-ups. Who has attended Ali's previous talk? It was like 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, and you're back for more. I mean, it is a fascinating subject. Every time I hear her speak, I learn something new. So I'm glad you're here. And let's just get going here. All right, so we're going to just start with the basics. And for those of you who don't know, we'll have Ali introduce herself, tell you a little bit about what maybe she did before, how she got into this field, and what makes you an expert, Madame?
Perseverance.
Want to move that closer?
Okay, so my name is Ali Stoddard. I raised my children here in the La Miranda community for 20 years. I just moved to Glen Ellen, but I've been in the Bay Area since the 1980s, and my background is in orthopedics and spine surgery. So I was in the operating room consulting with surgeons, telling them how to use my widget, and I was in oncology, osteoporosis, bone healing, wound healing, and at one point I'm like, there's got to be something to this healing thing besides surgery and pharmaceuticals. And that's in 2015 I found the plant. And when I was raising my children even, I'm an athlete. I swam for Cal. I played rugby for Cal. I play soccer today. I'm 64 years old. I've got 2 adult children. But as I was raising my children, as an athlete, I was told, you got a carbo load. And in my 40s, I had candida and all sorts of inflammation. I'm like, there's got to be something other than pharmaceuticals. And that's when I found the plant. And there's 2 different types of plant out there, and we'll get into that later. But I was always looking for something, and so when I got into medical marijuana in 2015, and I was a medical liaison for the marijuana companies here in the Bay Area, and there's quite a few at that time. There were quite a few. Have any of you gone to the marijuana club at Rossmore? So they've had a medical marijuana club at Rossmore, and they've been giving talks for literally 10 years. But back in 2015, there were 28,000 published clinical studies on cannabis. And you're like, what the heck is cannabis? Does anybody know what CBD is? Anybody?
That's my next question.
It's a plant, right? And so when I learned about all this plant medicine, I'm like, why are plants, this plant in particular, why is it so important for our health? And that's when I got into pain management, and then I had to start learning about nutrition. So the last 10 years, I've learned a lot about nutrition and different disease states that are systemic. Anybody have chronic pain? Anybody have insomnia? Anybody have digestion issues? Anybody have a grandchild with ADHD or Tourette's? Anybody know a Vietnam vet with PTSD? All of these issues can be healed and supported naturally within our body. And so what I found out in 2015 is that we have an amazing system in our body that's part of the nervous system. And so when we say, hey, CBD can calm the nervous system, it's not that the CBD is doing it, it's actually an entire system in our body that's part of the nervous system. And it's called the endocannabinoid system.
All right, you're getting ahead of
word.
yourself. She's
Yeah.
got so much to share. But I want to go back.
Yes.
Just, you know, you keep referring to the plant.
Yes.
There used to be a recording studio in Sausalito called The Plant, but I think we're talking about something different. What is CBD? And then maybe now you threw out that big word, endocannabinoid. Did I say that right?
Yeah, endocannabinoid.
And maybe share a little bit of that with us.
Okay, so CBD is short for cannabidiol. Cannabidiol is from the cannabis plant. And there are two cannabis plants out there. There's a marijuana plant, and that's got CBD in it and THC. And then there's a hemp plant. They both look exactly alike. If you were to smoke the marijuana plant, you would get high. If you were to smoke the hemp plant, you can't get high because there's no THC in it. Does that make sense? So it's amazingly confusing, but CBD is the cannabinoid or the nutrient that does not have THC and it cannot get you high, but it actually, we have CBD receptors in our body. What does that mean? It means you have opioid receptors in your body too, and so when they figured out that white willow is the receptor for the plant that we have in our body, they figured out how to make a white willow artificial aspirin, and that's why we have receptors for aspirin, but it's actually white willow. It's actually a plant. So our body is full of receptors that are looking for plants and nutrients to heal and support and calm the body, okay? So CBD is cannabidiol, it's a fancy word, but we make cannabidiol, we make CBD in the body already. But, and we make THC. Has anybody ever heard of the runner's high? When we get athletes and they're running, they get this endorphin rush. Well, it's actually anandamide, which is the THC that we make in our body.
Never heard that.
Right. So it's not actually endorphins, it's actually anandamide. That's the THC we make in the body. Cannabidiol that we make in the body is used for thousands thousands of different pathways and, I guess mostly calming the nervous system and reducing inflammation. Okay, so we've probably got about 50 people here. How many of you feel like you have inflammation? Right? Every disease state, every symptom, whether it's heart issues, whether it's arthritis, whether it's PTSD or anxiety, has a component of inflammation, okay? Inflammation isn't the root cause, though. The root cause could be sugar, could be vegetable oil, could be stress, it could be trauma. And so what I do also is try to find the root cause of your inflammation that's creating your high blood pressure, that's creating your chronic pain. So I do that because we have this whole system in our body called the endocannabinoid system that is just in charge of helping every other system in the body get balanced. You got too much inflammation, it's gonna bring down the inflammation. You got high blood pressure, we're gonna figure out why you have high blood pressure and maybe give you some omega-3s that will reduce your high blood pressure. So plants and nutrients can help do many, many things in the body. And that's what I learned in 2015, that, wow, half the weeds out there that we're putting Roundup, our elders, our ancestors used those weeds to fight inflammation. Okay, so we've gone from a plant-based society to a chemical-based society. So I'm here to tell you that this green plant is very, very complex and has been vilified. And I'm one of the few people out there that have a very brainy science side to me. And so I teach doctors about this system. And so I wanted to teach you about it too. So CBD is it's a very, very complex plant that does not have THC in it. So if you want to get high or dizzy or anything like that, you go get your CBD from the dispensary. We don't want to do that. If we're feeling sick, if I have an immunosuppressed patient, I don't want them to have to deal with being dizzy or high. And so that's why I only deal with hemp CBD versus marijuana CBD. Does that make sense? Anybody got a question on that? Because it's so, your grandkids have all come up to you and said, have a gummy.
No.
Okay, but if that jar of gummy, if that jar has a orange triangle on it with an exclamation point in the middle, it's saying this is marijuana CBD. That's gonna have THC in it.
So they have to show that
Yes,
triangle?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is there anything additional about, so we can compare CBD to THC? Because, for instance, I've heard, well, a little THC is good if you mix it in. Like, what else do we need to know about the differences?
It's a question I get all the time. And there are many, many very profitable, very big hemp companies out there that have no THC in their product. And so when I was doing the research in 2016, I found that CBD has over 2,000 gene expressions that can be turned on and turned off in the body. And THC has about 36. What does that mean? It means it's that the CBD molecule compound is actually the compound that's turning on these different pathways, jump-starting these receptors, and it's doing a whole host of it's turning on different pathways that have been turned off. So if you've got chronic pain, or if you've got chronic anxiety or chronic digestion or insomnia, it usually means that that endocannabinoid system isn't working. And so CBD starts that system up. And it's the only molecule that they have found that jumpstarts this system in the body. So the endocannabinoid system can only be fed by CBD period. Wild. I mean, it's wild to think that.
I mean, we'll get to this probably more later, but why aren't you and others like you at schools of medicine teaching doctors about this?
Oh, gosh, great question.
And I'm just throwing in my own
Because-
questions here.
Because our government is aligned with our pharmaceutical companies, which is aligned with our other companies that, A, want to make money, and it's easier for the government to control a man-made chemical than a plant, right? And so in the 1920s, hemp was the biggest crop in the United States. And when they started to outlaw cannabis, the American Medical Association was the biggest organization against outlawing cannabis, because in the 1920s, they were using marijuana and THC for digestion issues, for menstruation issues, for menopause, for pain, for 1,000,001 things. That was our #1 product in our pharmacopoeia in 1920. And then, you know, the industrialists of the day, you know, hemp was our main fiber. You know, George Washington's uniforms are made out of hemp, the rope and the sails. When World War II came along, the government said, we've got to increase our hemp. And to this day, there is a bridge in France made of hemp concrete that is still in existence today. It's 1,500 years old. You know, our Declaration of Independence is written on hemp paper. If we had kept hemp in our culture, we would have a much more plant-based society. We'd be living out of houses that were have hemp wood, naturally pest resistant and breathable. So because they outlawed this plant, we started to develop all of these other chemicals that you cover over wood, or you know, bring into your cement. And so anyway, we went from a very, very plant-based culture to a very, very artificial, chemical-based society, and our medicine went with it.
And we're probably less healthy now than we were then.
You know, if you look at, say, Africa, where the people there are starving, they still live off the land, and they are healthier than we are. And I believe that they are healthier than we are because we don't get enough sunshine, we don't eat plants and nutrients from nutrient soil, and we have a lot of cement and rubber in between us and the earth.
Okay, we'll have to ask that question in a little bit. So this is sounding really good to me. I don't know about you.
I'm a little woo-woo.
Yeah, well, but you know, there's science backing all this up,
Oh, yeah.
right? So let's say I go home and I think, I'm going to try some of this. So I'm going to go online, or I'm going to go down to my CVS, or maybe I'll be brave enough to wander into one of these dispensaries. What am I going to find there? What am I going to find in those 3 places?
In the dispensaries, you're going to find CBD that has marijuana, that is from the marijuana plant and has THC in it. You're going to find something like ratios 20:1, or the, you know, AK-47 strain, or just Maui Wowie, you know, really odd strains. And you know, the medical marijuana in the dispensary is their #1 for entertainment, and there's a lot of benefit to THC. There's a lot of benefit. It's actually an analgesic, it's a pain reliever, and it's an anti-inflammatory. But the side effects that go along with THC, which is getting you high, dizzy, you know, nauseous. Some people, many of my clients cannot tolerate THC. So when you go to the dispenser, you're going to get THC, no matter what. They'll call it a CBD product, but by law, it has to have THC in it, okay? When you go online or you go to CVS, that's hemp, because hemp is now, under the Farm Bill, it's treated as a dietary supplement, like a vitamin. However, there's no standards in the hemp market. There's no standards in the vitamin market. You could get a vitamin C and it's all 100% ascorbic acid. Well, that's not really vitamin C, that's half of it. So it's the same thing with CBD. You may be getting hemp oil from the seed, from the hemp seed. That's not CBD, that's hemp oil, which is pretty healthy oil,
Yeah.
but that's not CBD. That's not going to jumpstart this system.
So confusing.
It's amazingly complicated. It's amazingly unregulated, and it's a plant. So if you go out and go wine tasting and you get a Pinot Noir, that's a different strain than a Chardonnay. It's the same thing with this plant. There's many, many different strains, even with hemp. So my grower, I have a grower in Marin County that I've been working with for 10 years. He grows biodynamically and organically, which means that it's a very natural way to bring up the plant. And so the nutrients in our plant there's omega-3s, there's vitamins, there's polyphenols, terpenes, flavonoids, 1,000,001 different plant nutrients. So let me ask you this. When you heat up a vegetable, if you really heat it high, what happens to the nutrients? You heat them off, right? It's the same thing with hemp. And out there in the front, I had a little jar of hemp oil, and it looks like tar, it smells yucky, and it's really sticky. And so most companies out there, like if you go to CVS, the companies that are selling in CVS, they heat up that CBD so they can mix it. And when you heat it up, you heat up all those nutrients.
And you also taught me, for instance, I've been getting my vitamin C at CVS, probably like most of us have, for an example.
Yeah.
And you brought to my attention that has probably been sitting on the shelf for how long and in the warehouse for how long.
Right.
So the efficacy
Right.
has been lost.
Or it's a synthetic product. So when the pharmaceutical companies take a vitamin and they take ascorbic acid and they make it synthetically, it doesn't absorb very well in our body. And you need a plant like acerola cherry or bioflavonoids to go along with that ascorbic acid to make it a full vitamin so you can absorb it better. And so I always say, if you're going to take your vitamin C, take your vitamin C, but take an orange with your vitamin C. That will help you absorb it better. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Be writing down your questions because I know you're going to have some because we have an amazing resource here today. And then we're going to get, as usual, to all your questions near the end. So you touched on this, but let's go deep into all the benefits, right? So when you said, who's got inflammation, who's got sleep issues, like I could raise my hand to all those.
Yeah.
So like where do we start and can one serve all those things? Are there different things? So maybe let's talk about the benefits.
So the plant has a cannabinoid, that's the main nutrient called CBD, but it's also got these other secondary nutrients called terpenes. And so, like for instance, when COVID started, Dr. Blair, who's the CBD, he's the most experienced CBD doctor in the world. He wrote a book, Mental Health Issues and CBD Hemp. He and I developed an antiviral CBD for COVID. And so the terpenes that we put in with the CBD are antiviral. And I literally helped 100 people stay out of the emergency room with that lung issue that first year.
Right.
It was horrific, right? And so there are different terpenes that we can add to the CBD that are naturally in the plant, but we add a little bit more so we get more of an effect. And the other thing I want to say is I want to say like 2017, there were CBD, quote unquote, CBD oils that were in the smoke shops. And they weren't CBD oil, they were synthetic product that a French company had developed to interrupt the endocannabinoid system, and they ended up doing really damaging things. Since that date, we still have no oversight in the CBD market. And so when you say if I go online or I go to CVS, what am I getting? You always want to look for a CBD product, a plant product that is third-party tested. Third-party tested. What that means is there's a lab out there that's testing for heavy metals. This plant, hemp, was used in Fukushima to absorb the radiation from the soil. This plant pulls toxins out of the soil. So if you're getting your CBD, which a lot of isolate is from China, you're going to get tainted CBD, and it's going to have heavy metals in it. And unless you have third-party testing that shows there are no heavy metals in this plant product, it's important. So again, there's no oversight. I started my website, my company in 2015 because I'm like, this is a really cool plant. I've never, I'm not, I eat my vegetables, but, I didn't know plant could be such a medicine, and that there is a whole system in our body called the endocannabinoid system, which, by the way, is the most pervasive, biggest system in our body, and it's the communication portal to the nervous system. And so when we have anxiety, our nerves in our deep brain are overfiring. The endocannabinoid system, if we get it started, will keep that overfiring from happening. So it's not like you're going to smoke pot and be lobotomized. It's like you're going to bring the nervous system down to a normal level, okay? So I have patients with Lyme disease, Tourette's. I have a 2-month-old to a 97-year-old. We all have this system in our body. We all have the ability to jumpstart this system when we have chronic conditions. And that's what I do, is I help you jumpstart this system.
So I guess should we pick apart one issue at a time? Like, let's take sleep.
Okay, let's say sleep.
All right.
So if you go to the dispensary, you'll get THC, and that'll zonk you out, and you'll wake up in the middle of the night, and you'll be very dizzy. If you go to my website, you will get a tincture called Sleep, and it has CBD and something called CBN. And the CBN is actually the cannabinoid that we use to help people sleep. And I use it myself. When I started getting up in the middle of the night with children, I started getting insomnia, and I get up at 3 o'clock every night, and I take my tincture probably about 2 to 3 times a week. I used to have to take it every night in the middle of the night, and then my body got used to it, and my sleep pattern started coming back. And so the beautiful thing about CBD is it's non-toxic. Nobody's ever died from an overdose. Now, if you went to the dispensary and you smoked a pound of pot, you would feel like you want to die, but you're still not going to die from THC either, okay? It's usually the chemicals they put in these products that are the problem, okay? All right, I'm going to do one more confusing thing. When we die of an overdose, it's because the receptors in the brain stem get overwhelmed and they cut off the respiration. So alcohol poisoning, opioid poisoning, chemical poisoning is actually a respiration issue. People stop breathing, okay? If you had an overdose of THC or CBD, it's not going to hit the brainstem because there are no endocannabinoid receptors in the brainstem. So there has never been a death due to an overdose of any cannabis plant. That's how safe it is. That's why I believe it's a weed that grows on every continent in this earth. We're not meant to smoke it, but we are meant to ingest it. And if you have a leaf, crush up the leaf and drink it, put it in a smoothie, it will taste terrible, right? It's not a very good tasting plant. The bitter, the better. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
All your bitter plants are really good for you. Well, both CBD and THC are very bitter.
All right, let's talk about pain/sports.
All right. So I have a lot of Ironman athletes, And as we're exercising or as we're in physical therapy, if we're working really hard, we get lactic acid. Everybody know what lactic acid is? It's that buildup in your muscles that make your muscles sore. Well, the endocannabinoid system, I have these Ironman athletes, they're doing the bike, I think they do the swim, and then they do the bike, and then they do the run. On the bike, they're popping their CBD gummies because the endocannabinoid system will push out the metabolites, push out the lactic acid, and allow the ATP, or our energy, to have more space to work.
Wow.
So it actually, for me, I mean, I've had clients tell me, wow, I can run my 3 miles and I'm not struggling. And it's because it's helping to detox, but it's also helping to energize. So there are many, many systems in the body that the endocannabinoid system is helping. The main thing, when we're exercising or when we're at the physical therapy, we're creating inflammation because we're working so hard. The endocannabinoid system is going to push that inflammation down. So there's a million and one pathways that it's working on.
This is why you're winning all your soccer tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. We have a traveling soccer team, and we're a bunch of women over 60. Most of us are between 60 and 65, and just last year, we had been playing in the over 50 and over 55s, and just last year, we're like, these 50-year-olds are getting faster than we are. So we now are playing over 60, but we're all on CBD, and I put my CBD cream on my knee before I play. I do my tincture about 45 minutes before we start, so I know at halftime I'm going to have a high dose of CBD in my body. So there's lots of ways you can use CBD. For children who have, say, Tourette's, they take the CBD before they go to school. So they can actually concentrate. When the inflammation or when the nervous system is calmed or when the pain is calmed, you can actually focus on what's in front of you. When you're dealing with, this pain that's at a 9 or a 10, or a kid with Tourette's who's gonna guffaw all of a sudden out of nowhere, and they're worried about when they're gonna, right? When the nervous system is gonna spike. So what it does is it allows you to go on with your daily activities and put the pain aside or put the nervous system aside and do what you need to do.
So I'll use myself as an example. I've been in not one, but 2 pretty good car accidents.
Yeah.
Neither one were my fault, by the way. Let's have that go on record. But, I mean, that's chronic pain.
Yeah.
Yes, I get massages. Yes, I go to a chiropractor once in a while, but I'm too arthritic now for them to manipulate me anymore. So would this help me?
So yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So when you put the cream on, say, an arthritic elbow, you have pain receptors in the skin, so it goes right into the joint very quickly. You got a hip replacement. I've got many hip replacement patients who just use the cream on their hip because it will get deep into the joint. So what happens when you put the cream on is it reduces the inflammation. So if you have a fall and you hit your head, put that cream on your head as soon as you fall. Because the United States government actually did a study because they wanted to create artificial CBD. So they did a study. And they showed that if you take in CBD, ingest it, within 6 hours of a stroke or 6 hours of a heart attack, you will offset that tissue death that happens. What happens when we have a stroke is all this inflammation goes to the brain and it starts to heal, but then it creates too much inflammation and the whole right side gets paralyzed. That's tissue death. CBD, our government proved that CBD will offset that paralysis.
You need to be sharing this with the world.
And it's like unbelievable. And, we don't have this in our medicine chest.
Right.
Right? And so, you never know when you're going to fall. You never know when you're going to cut yourself, get a bruise. keep a tincture in your medicine, cabinet.
I have a question for you. This just came to my mind. You know how you're not supposed to keep sunblock in your car because when it gets too overheated, it doesn't work anymore?
Yeah.
Same with CBD?
Great question. So CBD, the plant will start to denature or break
Decompose,
down at 160 degrees. So it's not really going to denature in your car. However,
It's hot in there.
the MCT oil that it's couched in
Oh,
is going to turn bad. It's
Okay.
going to taste horrible.
so don't keep it in your car.
So don't keep it in your
Got
car.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So MCT oil, a neonatologist was in her 60s. Her husband was getting Alzheimer's, and she found out that coconut oil, 4 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, helped her husband's Alzheimer's. Well, what they found out later was it was the MCT part of the coconut oil,
Nice.
medium chain triglyceride. So now you can go out to the store and get MCT oil, and it's healthy. So we put our CBD in MCT oil.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the healthy part of coconut oil.
When we were on the phone kind of preparing for you today, we talked about skin issues.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
so I've got a friend who
Yeah.
is always going to the dermatologist with skin, like rashes, dermatitis, eczema, I don't even know what all these things are, but how would you use this and what would it do? What would the benefit be?
So, I have a new product that has CBG and CBD in it. It's called Pain Support. And I also use it for gut support and brain support, but it's awesome. CBG is awesome on the skin. So yes, I have a CBD cream, which is out there. Anybody can sample some. But I had a gentleman just last week, he had this red, big, oozing, he didn't know what it was from. He thought it was an ingrown hair, but it was just red and oozing, and it was bloody. And he put the tincture, just rubbed it on there, just put a couple of drops like 3 times a day, and literally in a week it was gone. And it had been festering for weeks. And I'm like, Jonathan, just try this tincture, just put it on the skin, soak the skin 2 or 3 times, and literally it went away. And I had a cancerous, or something that looked like it was going to turn cancerous. You know how they change color, change size? I put my CBD on it, and literally in a week, it was gone. So I do have a lot of psoriasis patients and eczema, but I will tell you, psoriasis and eczema are a systemic problem. So we got to find out the root cause of that. But I've got balms and creams that definitely help the inflammation on the skin, but that inflammation is coming from the body. It's coming from inside, right? So we got to find what the root cause of the psoriasis is. And it's usually a systemic thing. And it's usually, I have a gut test that I have patients use, and it's a stool test. And the doctors will give you a blood test to try and figure out what's going on. Well, what's hanging out in your blood is not what's hanging out in your digestion. Every day we are eating foods that we can't digest, and we don't even know it, but it's creating inflammation. So when my friend took this stool test, she figured out that mushrooms and onions were creating inflammation in her body because she didn't have the bacteria in her digestive system to digest it.
And those are supposed to be healthy to eat.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's healthy for everybody, but if you don't have the bacteria to digest it, so that's where, I'm called a functional medicine health coach. I try to figure out root cause, and a lot of it is due to stress, grief, toxins, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals. I hate to say it.
Okay, risks. Any risks?
So the risk of taking CBD, a whole dropper full when it's a 5,000 milligram, could be that you get a headache or you get a hot flash. And I've had people who are in the very early days, anybody who's very sensitive to foods, very sensitive to drugs, very sensitive to taste, smell, touch, we start out with a drop under the tongue. But what I actually do is we start out and I have them smell it. And if it smells like, oh, I can't take it, I know that they're highly sensitive, and we got to start them on another plant nutrient called beta-caryophyllene, and then we can start them on CBD. So
I
there's
might be that kind of person.
there's something out there called MCAS. Anyway, it's where people get double jointed or they're very sensitive to most things. They have histamine reactions. Those clients, I know their system is not working, and we got to jumpstart it with something else,
Wow.
and then add in CBD.
All right.
Our body is amazing.
Well, that is true.
In 2015, I was working with these medical marijuana companies, and we were getting people high, and I'm like, why are we getting people high? Yes, we're putting people in remission. We had 4 cancer remissions out of 100. I wouldn't say that's a great result. I now have 2 cancer remissions, a multiple myeloma and a glioblastoma, and I believe that the body can heal itself. We just got to feed it the right nutrients.
Wow. Wow. Are we learning stuff or what? This is, okay. Okay. There's tinctures, there's gummies, there's, I don't know what else. There's capsules and salves and lotions and potions. So, what does a person try? How do they decide what to try? And does it matter if what they're trying is for this or that?
So if you've got pain, say arthritis, or you fell and injured yourself, start with the cream and put it right on the injury 2 to 3 times a day, okay? Now, if you've got scoliosis or discogenic disc disease, or you need a spinal fusion, and you're 75 years old and there's no way in heck you're gonna have a spinal fusion. I was in 1,500 of those surgeries, by the way, and they are very traumatic. So if you have a physical issue where this chronic pain condition, the cream will probably give you 10%, maybe 20% relief, but you probably need a tincture, which is an oil that you put under the tongue, so it gets through the bloodstream and jumpstarts this endocannabinoid system.
You can use both.
Yeah, I have a lot of patients who use both, the cream and the tincture. But start with the cream. That's the simplest. It's $40 for a 4-ounce, jar, and you can carry it with you. I mean, I have carried it in my car, and it does sort of get yucky if you heat it up for a year. But I've had stuff that looks yucky, and I still put it on my body, and it still works. The CBD does not denature. It's really hard to get it past 160 degrees. Yeah,
Got it.
It's the aloe vera cream that we use that will go bad.
So when do we do a gummy?
Oh, everybody wants a gummy, and that's why I have gummies on my website. When we ingest CBD, whether it's a tincture, we put a tincture under the tongue, there's capillaries under the tongue, there's bloodstream under the tongue, goes right into the bloodstream. If you take a gummy, now you've got to digest that gummy. And the liver and the kidney are going to filter out some of the CBD, so you're not going to get all of the medicine.
It takes longer, right?
And there's a 45-minute to an hour onset. Whereas if you take a tincture under the tongue, that gets into your bloodstream immediately.
It just tastes so bad.
Oh, I know. I'm right there with you, honey.
I'm just being honest. To me,
So
it's like,
if you want a tincture, if you want the effect of a tincture, take the gummy and put it under your tongue.
oh,
Or you can use a capsule. Now, so when I play soccer, I'll also sometimes use a capsule. And so right before I go out on the field, or right before I get in the car, I put a capsule, I swallow a capsule. In 45 minutes when I get on the field, I know that that capsule is now in my system. So it's a timing thing.
Got it.
You want a capsule or gummy, you've got to time it to when you need it.
okay.
If you're having a panic attack, use that tincture under your tongue right now. And I have children, and I'll sit there with their moms, and I'll say, okay, take stock of your body. How do you feel? And then take 2 drops of the CBD under your tongue, and then we'll be chatting, talking about all different things. And then 10 minutes later, I'll say, well, how do you feel? And they'll say, I feel calmer. I can see. I don't have all this agita. I don't have all this noise coming into my head.
So that would be good for ADHD too.
And that's for ADHD,
Yeah.
for all sorts of nervous system issues. It just calms the nervous system so we can focus more. And the Dr. Tracy Fritz did a study. She had a child at 9 years, figured out that the child had autism, and she's a pediatric doctor, and she had no tools in her tool belt to help her daughter.
No.
And that's when she found CBD. And so she did a study, and she showed for these children, their cognitive ability, their executive function, their anxiety went down, and all these other functions went up because they could concentrate more and focus more, and they didn't have all this noise coming in.
Yeah, so for those of you, well, for instance, you know, if you have grandkids, for instance, or children that have ADHD or Tourette's, I guess.
Yeah.
ADHD seems to be so prevalent.
Yeah.
I just lost my train of thought. Does that happen to you?
So what do you do with a kid,
Oh, I know.
you know, or a senior citizen?
Well, because my question was, the medical community, the pharmaceutical community doesn't seem to know the long-term effects of all these ADHD medications. So you start giving your kid, your grandchild, you know, this medication so they can study and learn and read, and then what are we doing to our children, you know?
And so I would say Adderall is the most prescribed drug out there, and it's got like 5 years of clinical studies, and there are no studies looking at Adderall with 2 other or 3 other drugs, right? And so those of us who are older and we're on heart medication or high blood pressure or cholesterol, nobody's looking at that polypharmacy, all of these drug interactions.
Yeah, together.
They're not, they tried, but you know, it's just not being done. There's too many drugs out there. And you know, many people are on 3 and 4 drugs. And so then you've got more and more symptoms now from the drugs that you've got to alleviate, and it just goes down that rabbit hole.
It gets
Yeah.
worse. So, okay, so we've talked about, have we forgotten anything? Salves, creams, gummies, tinctures, capsules.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting anything?
You know, I used to have a CBD infused sea salts,
Oh,
but they're just too expensive to ship, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
that's
But I
interesting.
do have
Sneak
some
it in there.
patients who have chronic pain that order, you know, a gallon of this stuff, and so I get that directly from my guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the different types. How do we know about dosage?
Yeah, so with CBD, just like any plant and just like any drug, you want to start with a very small dose, you know, 1 drop under the tongue. Hang out for 5-10 minutes. In 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to feel either nothing or, oh, I feel a little calmer, or, oh, my pain is, you know, gone
10
from a 10
minutes.
to an 8.
Wow.
Literally, when you have a tincture under the tongue, gets into the bloodstream, it's immediate.
Okay.
So versus the cream, so, you know, I'm on the soccer pitch and my friend, my teammate gets hit, kicked in the shin, and she's got a lump the size of a golf ball. And so we go running off the field, and I put my little balm on it, my CBD balm, and we just sit there, and it's going whoop, and we're like, holy cow. I mean, that usually doesn't happen, but that golf ball went down literally in 5 minutes. And so, and I had a sting in Florida on my hand right here, and I don't know what it was, and I'm like, it's going blue, and I'm seeing it going black and blue, and I have a video of it, and I put my balm on it, and it went whoo, and it went right down. I mean, it's very
Bee sting or
immediate.
something.
Yeah.
Ooh, can you use it? There's so many.
Bee stings.
Well, I was going to say mosquito bites.
Mosquito bites. My daughter has the sweetest skin in the world. She's always getting bit. We always put
Love
the
me.
balm on or the cream on.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if you're hitting your arms all the time and they're getting black and blue, put the cream on, you know, because when we have black and blues and those black and blues don't go away, that blood calcifies. And what does that mean? It means it stays there forever, and now you're impeding your blood flow. So even though, you know, if I get hit in the quad, for instance, I'm going to put cream on that because I don't want that blood to calcify, and then I'm going to have less blood flow going to my quadricep, right?
Wow.
So there is a reason for us to, you know, just keep the blood flowing. You know, when we have old injuries, they tend to get cancerous, and they know that. That's why we got to keep blood flow going. That's why we got to walk. That's why when you get up in the morning, you know, you're still in bed, put the knees to your chest and just get a little bit of blood flow before you get up. That'll help your back, and it'll help you not, you know, blow a disc or something.
Aging, not for the faint of heart.
No,
Right?
but I will tell you this, one more story. I played I played rugby in the 1990s. When my daughter was born in 1998, I quit. My friend, who is a double black belt, and she was one of the healthiest teammates I had, she got an autoimmune disease and was within death's door. She healed herself by juicing 27 fruits and vegetables. Last year, and she went from skin and bones, okay? She was weeks from death's door. And last year, she set the Guinness World Record for most push-ups by a woman in an hour.
Wow.
Do you know how many she did? 1,036.
Oh my gosh.
Guinness World Record. Next, in April, she's going to go for her next record using CBD.
Oh.
And she's up to almost 2,000.
Oh, come on. Come on.
I mean, she's got guns, but she's 64. She's my age. So doesn't matter when you start. Just start.
I am
Start walking.
such an underachiever. Dang. I got to step up my game here. So we're talking about dosage. So
Yeah.
I know that I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but if any of us here wanted to call you, like how do you deal with that so that if I said, you know, it's probably time that you and I talk about getting my pain, you know, whatever my issues are, you could guide me with the dosage.
Yeah, so if everybody got one of my handouts, I have my phone number. That's my cell phone number.
Oh boy.
Call me and ask me, and I'll give you a free consultation. We'll talk for half an hour, free of charge.
So you know that we make a promise here at Savvy Seniors Living where we always say we're not salesy. We don't want to sell you anything. We're not trying to make you do anything. But it's not like I can say, oh, well, your local CBD expert, you know how we can say that normally, like, well, talk to your favorite financial advisor. I don't know anyone else that does this to use a general term like, well, talk to your CBD expert, because Allie's the only one I've ever heard of.
I know Dana's always asking me, don't you know anybody else that can come up here?
Yeah, like I wanted a panel of other people that could add to the conversation. We can't find any. There are physicians.
I have two physicians
but they're not
that I work
local.
with. Yeah, they're in Washington and on the East Coast, and they are by far, you know, medical savants. But, you know, I come from Western medicine, but I learned all this Eastern medicine, which is how plants and nutrients affect our body and support our body on my own. Like, I didn't get any training.
Yeah.
I learned it all on my own, and I've been working with this plant for over 10 years. The doctors can't work with this plant. Like, they are not, the gold standard is a pharmaceutical. They are not allowed. They can say, you know, you might want to look at CBD as part of your treatment plan, but they can't say, hey, go ask Allie, she'll help you.
But they
They're
don't.
not allowed to.
They don't.
Well, they're not allowed to.
My chiropractor, my
Yeah.
the physical therapy, my massage person, they've never mentioned CBD.
Yeah.
Never.
And I actually have probably 4 or 5 chiropractors in this area that sell my CBD. Diablo Foods in Lafayette sells my CBD. Lafayette Physical Therapy sells my CBD. Their therapists use the CBD on their patients. So before you go to chiropractic, before you do your gardening, before you do your walking, before you do any physical therapy that's going to create maybe some inflammation or pain, put the cream on before. Always put the cream on before,
Okay.
okay? And then also at bedtime. Because when we sleep, that is when our healing time begins. That's when the immune system is working. And we don't want the immune system to be fighting the inflammation from an injury. We want to put the cream on the injury so the immune system can fight something else.
Got it. Because we're busy when we're sleeping.
We are very busy when we're sleeping.
So there's different types of CBD, and we've talked about this full spectrum, broad spectrum. Like, what are all these spectrums, and why do I care?
Full spectrum has all the plant nutrients in it, more likely than broad spectrum or isolate. And there's a lot of terms, but you can go to CVS and get a 5,000 milligram CBD product, but it's isolate. And what that means is that they isolate. They take the CBD molecule out of the plant, they heat off all the rest, and you've just got CBD. Well, what about the polyphenols and the omegas and the terpenes and the cannabinoids and the other flavonoids? So we don't...
You need all those.
We need all those. We don't, you don't, I mean, some of these isolates work great because they're 5,000 milligrams, but for the general public, more people are going to benefit with a full spectrum with all of the nutrients in the product, and that's called full spectrum.
You've